thank you all very much for coming along. I will start the presentation by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today and extending that to anyone past or present here today as well. I will also say that said Kelpie's team is the reason that I'm quite jet lagged today after getting back from London late last night. So I take no responsibility for any mistakes I make today. So there's two main ways in which we access our money on a daily basis that everyone will be familiar with. That's either using a bank account or handling in the form of cash. And for the general population, these are perfectly adequate and they're designed accordingly for the general population. But vulnerable communities often need help to spend their money. Participants like Matt on screen, who needs support to stick to a budget and has needed to use cash to separate his money into different buckets to stick to that budget. Or participants like Chris, our CFO, who's a chartered accountant, wheelchair bound, and has a need for support workers to access his money to help him pay for everyday items when a venue is not accessible for him to access himself. The participants shouldn't be more vulnerable due to circumstances that are outside of their control. But to reduce the risks, we actually have to understand what has caused them in the first place. So where have we come from? My personal journey comes back to the simple fact that I was looking for more out of my life. I wanted to feel and see myself making a meaningful difference and impact on others. And I think in the space that we're in, it's okay to want that personal goal for ourselves and be able to make a difference to others while we're doing that. But unfortunately, chasing 2% growth as a self-starter in a fast-paced environment wasn't quite cutting it for me in my FMCG career previous to this. And as much as someone needs to sell deodorant and washing powder, I didn't think that was really my calling. But look, I'll also say as a 6'4" straight white male, I'm not exactly the picture of marginalization and lack of opportunity. So I'm not seeking sympathy right now for that. But I've always strived to live life that had opportunity and prosperity. And I wanted to make a difference so that other people could have those same opportunities and weren't limited by, again, circumstances that sat outside of their control. And so it's important to use the privilege that you do have for good. Everyone wants to make money, but I think if we can make a living doing something that makes a difference along the way, that's something that gives other people the same opportunities. My business partner, Reese, owned and operated an NDIS service provider in Melbourne that at its peak had 170 staff and over 100 clients. That business was founded after a friend with a disability was struggling to find work and was honestly offered offensively underpaying opportunities. The business started as a last-ditch effort to actually provide a community of people, of his friends, opportunities to work and earn a livable wage and make a difference along the way. That business still operates today, and 7 of 9 of that management team are people with disability. The business offers community support, group activities and camps, and these kind of activities aim to promote community access and participation and connection building, but they also involve spending money at cafes, at bowling alleys, etc. And most clients of that organization have cognitive disabilities and they lack the capability to handle their own money in everyday circumstances. They struggle to understand the concept of money, to calculate how much change they should get if they hand over cash. And traditional banking products let them down because of the way in which these products have been designed to suit the everyday person's needs, not the way in which they handle their money. So this leads to a number of pretty concerning challenges with cash and traditional debit cards. Within your bank account, you have a debit card. It's connected to an account and that card has your name on it. Nobody else has access to that money. That provides you with security to make sure that your money can be used only how you intend it to be. But this is unfortunately quite restrictive and disempowering to people who need other people to support them to pay. Participants who require support to pay for everyday items often have no other option but to hand over their personal debit card to someone else, which allows them to put themselves at a risk because they need to rely completely on someone's trust that they're going to use their card properly. There's no compliant, secure, and accountable way to have someone else pay for you without revoking a lot of your protections that are according to the Visa and MasterCard terms of service. Handing over your card to someone revokes your fraud protections based on those rules. So you handing over that card is effectively an act of compliance, meaning you wear the risk if your money's misused. How is that fair for a participant that might not have any other option? Regardless of who pays, when your personal card is used, your name appears on the transaction. For vulnerable customers who may have different support staff supporting them at different times of different days, This makes it incredibly difficult for them to have a clear and accurate understanding of who spent their money. There's no way to set rules or limitations when others pay for you. Whether it's whatever the transaction is, it can be spent anywhere if there's money available on that card, and it takes away the control a person has over their money when they rely on somebody else. So if we wouldn't settle for these types of risks for ourselves, why should vulnerable customers settle for that and be marginalized and exposed to a greater risk? The most ironic part is because people need help to make payments and because they need to hand out their bank card to other people to pay for them, we've seen experiences where people have not been allowed to get a bank account to put their money in because that is how the only option that they have to handle their money. So if there's no appropriate solution in the 21st century and someone needs to rely on cash because they can't even get a bank card, what happens when movie theaters and football stadiums and the zoo and hospitality venues and so many other places aren't even accepting cash anymore? What does that person now do? We're in a world trying to create independence and empowerment, and then the moment a card is not accepted, participants like Matt on the early slide are 100% reliant on a carer to spend for them, and there's no dignity or empowerment in that. When cash is used, there's also no visibility, no control, and no ability to track spending. In those circumstances, nobody wins. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of the inherent disadvantage society's most vulnerable face and are at when it comes to managing their money. And I wish we had time today to discuss them all. But despite all of this, when we spoke about these issues with a major bank early in our development, when we were trying to find solutions for the support organization we were part of, their response was that the amount of fraud occurring among these vulnerable customer cohorts was socially acceptable in line with the total fraud occurring within their banking ecosystem. So why is the first response to debank or refuse a vulnerable customer a bank account because the ways in which they handle money are considered too risky for the bank because they don't comply with the rules and regulations designed for an everyday person? Why is the answer to brush them aside in the name of focusing on our core cohort and stripping out our core product for simplicity and doubling down on universal design where that only marginalizes vulnerable cohorts further? This marginalization exists because we discard the needs of minority groups to cater to the interests of the middle of the bell curve, which just further exacerbates the problem on the outskirts. So what is it about the bank account that creates so many challenges for vulnerable people? Universally designed products give you the perception of customization, but it's often merely aesthetic rather than truly functional improvements. You can change your profile picture, you can change your background, you can change your account name, which is about as customizable as your MySpace profile was in 2009. It's the illusion of uniqueness masking what is fundamentally the exact same thing for everybody, which is perfectly suitable again for the everyday person. But it fails to account for the needs of people with disability, for elderly people, for vulnerable children, and so many others whose everyday lives rely on other people to support them to spend their money on products and services. And that's where SpendAble comes in. We decided that someone had to take the responsibility of solving this problem. And rather than focusing on how we could make managing our clients' money easier for our staff to reduce the administration and compliance burdens that come with managing money on behalf of your clients, we took the approach of, well, what if we could develop a product that actually put the power back into the hands of our client so our staff just didn't need to even be involved in the first place? So our task was trying to create a simple solution to a quite a complex problem. Our initial product was, we decided it wanted to be deliberate and conscious and a very, very simple transaction process that was very deliberate and ensured that we were able to remove a lot of the literacy and numeracy associated with spending and turned it into a process-driven approach. Because what we found was, while a number of our customers weren't necessarily able to handle their everyday money, that they were pretty savvy on technology, they were pretty good on an iPad, and if we could lean into the strengths of the capabilities that they had rather than trying to force a square peg into a round box, we could find positive outcomes for this cohort of individuals. And our early users, some pictured on the screen right here, found fantastic early success with our MVP product, transforming them from people who were never trusted with more than $20 or were never able to make a payment unsupervised to being able to have their dignity restored and go and purchase their daily coffee without someone looking over their shoulder every single time. By adding a supported decision-making process to the spending process, we were seeing early signs of what financial accessible worlds could look like. And the evolution of our product has undertaken a number of evolutions as our technical infrastructure improved and the feedback that we were able to receive better informed the outcomes of what we were doing. And it's always remained a really important part of our product evolution in working with all of our customers while ensuring that all of our customers' needs were met, but individual customization is accounted for at every step. Our product's undertaken a number of different evolutions, but then we've also expanded the user groups in which can use it. It's evolved from an early idea to three core offerings now. Our assistive technology platform, which is where our business started and remains the focus of, to provide accessible solutions to support those who require support to pay or to build their own capacity to handle their money more independently. We've expanded our service offering to give care providers a compliant, secure, and transparent way to handle money for the clients within their care, some of which are managing the money of hundreds of individual people, so especially those in supported independent living, residential aged care, and the likes. Traditionally, providers to this day are still holding money in cash in a tin, manually writing down every transaction on a piece of paper, storing receipts in pencil cases. This results in records that are often incorrect or missing information, which is non-compliant and puts the participant at a greater risk of financial abuse or missing funds. SpendAble solution designs to solve that while empowering the participants to build their own capacity to handle their money in the same system. We also provide a free financial literacy platform so participants can set their goals, build their first budget, and be supported to take the first steps on a journey towards financial empowerment and independence. SpendAble gives participants and providers greater flexibility of how their money can be used, deciding whether cash out is allowed or not, setting spending limits on a daily, fortnightly, weekly, or monthly cadence, and even dictate what merchant categories can be spent on within each individual budget. This gives people an element of flexibility and customization to both support them to stick within their budget and have better transparent visibility over how their money is being spent, but also make sure they have full control and transparency when others are spending it for them. You can tell the debit card which wallet the card needs to draw funds from by simply clicking a drop-down menu with your customized budgets that you've set. And support workers and carers can upload photos of receipts in an instant to give families and the participant immediate access to all the evidence that they need to give them peace of mind that their money is being used appropriately. Every transaction record tells you where funds were spent, how much was spent, which budget was used, who spent the money, and all the evidence in one spot. And this enriched data set protects participants, gives families more peace of mind, and holds carers to a higher standard of transparency. Our product has evolved into an industry-leading business solution for care providers across disability, aged care, child and family services, corrections, and trustee services. We empower these providers to support their diverse and large customer bases to manage their money in a way that ensures confidence and empowerment while ensuring airtight compliance for the provider as well. For these, there's a global problem that needs to be solved. This doesn't just exist here, and we truly are just getting started. We started our journey focusing on the disability and elderly cohorts because that was where our expertise and knowledge lied, but there are so many other vulnerable populations we're beginning to apply this solution to as we learn and continue to develop in our space. We have active operations, pilots, and MVPs across an extended range of vulnerable customer cohorts in Australia and are already exploring how we can service global cohorts in these spaces. Participants and providers are not just using SpendAble, but they're ecstatic with the impact that it's having on their own lives, and this is exactly why we continue to do what we do every single day. As we scale, we want to build the ability to deliver cheaper product plans for vulnerable customers. As our economies of scale improve, we want to provide solutions that are non-fundable requirements that we can deliver as close to free as possible so that people can remove the barriers to access that currently exist. All of our products that are direct to consumer are government funded through NDIS and My Aged Care. But again, we want to remove the bureaucracy and give people as much access to information as they can, and the same access to the tools as an everyday person has to a bank account. Our most important focus is to fulfill our mission to building products with the foundation of community and independence. It's at the heart of it. It's important that vulnerable people not only have products that are built for them, but these everyday products give them a powerful identity that they can be proud of, and to have a community that they can see themselves in, that feels heard, and that they can grow with together. And most importantly, we want to have a large, long-lasting impact on vulnerable communities around the globe. We feel that these are really, really important steps in what is a complex problem. We see a large and diverse range of circumstances every single day, and no one person is the same. And I know you hear that a lot in this industry, but it is truly the reality. And where universal design is a really important part of our everyday lives for so much of what we do, there's a really important piece of the puzzle at each end of that population bell curve that, again, is, as you would have seen in many circumstances today, is not addressed appropriately. So, what we're trying to do is address that within this financial space, and we hope that the lessons that we've learnt can translate into something that you can take back into your everyday lives as well in your careers. So, thank you very much for your time today, and enjoy the rest of the day.